Take it all away. I'm not scared of dying. You're the curse in this love denying. When my water breaks, you'll fade away to a death beyond the grave. And no angels rise, so not alone in this war, so try.
Hello, everyone! Welcome back to Animation Station, Animation for Anything in Animation. Welcome back to Castlevania-Thon. And as you can see, we are finally done with Season 2, so now we can move on to Season 3. And this season might just be even crazier than the previous season, from what I've seen so far. So what we're going to be doing in this review is that I'm going to be reviewing the first 4 episodes of the 3rd season of Castlevania. Yes, we're already halfway through the show. As after this, there's only one more season, and then we're all done. So, with all that said and done and out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into Season 3 of Castlevania and see where things continue after the big final battle against Dracula from Season 2. Starting with the episode that kicks off the season, Bless Your Dead Little Hearts. Let's begin. So, with Dracula dead, where can the show go from here? Well, I think it already answers that pretty quickly with its very first episode. Because this time, it's looking like Carmilla is going to be the big antagonist of the season. Will she last into Season 4? Who knows? All I know is that this season's probably about to get absolutely nuts, and it's going to be even crazier than Season 2, which I didn't think was possible, but this show continues to up its ante. So, let's begin by discussing Episode 1 of the 3rd season of Netflix's Castlevania anime, called Bless Your Dead Little Hearts. Why that title? Because it's a line from Carmilla. That's why it's titled that. Alright. You guys ready? Here we go. Synopsis. Alucard adjusts to his lonely new life in Dracula's castle. Belmont and Sypha pay a visit to an eerie and unusual town, and Carmilla returns home with a prize. That prize being Hector. So, let's move on to the plot. Starting in Dracula's castle. Deep in the forest, everything seems calm. There's no hints of the horror that occurred a month ago. Yeah, there's a time jump. I almost forgot. Sorry. Alucard tries to adjust to his lonely new life, but he misses Trevor and Sypha, and even has cute little dolls of them in his dining room, which I found pretty cute. Then we move on to the forest. Meanwhile, Trevor and Sypha are traveling by carriage through the forest in an attempt to fight the leftover night creatures, which they easily disperse, as they continue on their way to Brela. Then Carmilla's castle. This is where a majority of the episode happens, and again, this is where the actual episode title comes from. Carmilla returns home. Meeting her are Lenore and Striga, hope I'm pronouncing that right, who wonder what happened to their superior during her travel back home. Carmilla describes the horror that she witnessed, humans, vampires, and night creatures clashing against each other to survive. But despite her recent failings, she has a plan to have it all. Dragging behind Carmilla's marching army is a battered and chained Hector, who has now become Carmilla's slave. The only reason he's still alive being because of his skills as a forge master. Once inside, Carmilla finally meets with her other sister, Morana, and like the others, she questions why Carmilla took so long. Annoyingly, she retells her torturous journey back home as she's offered a drink of virgin's blood. Meanwhile, Hector finds himself stripped of his garments, which were already torn asunder from the walking and being treated like an animal, and caged like an animal, where he's handed a moldy piece of bread and doused with ice-cold water. In other words, Hector just made probably the biggest mistake of his life being on Carmilla's side, and now is biting him in the ass. Then we go to Lindenfeld. In a small town, a mysterious man named Saint-Germain, yes, that is how it's pronounced, is trying to buy some apples, when Trevor and Sypha arrive dragging a night creature behind their carriage. Trevor tries to collect a reward from the judge for killing the night creatures attacking travelers. But before they can continue with the negotiations, three men, monks of the priory, walk in. Their leader, Prior Sala, is happy that Trevor killed the creature, as it betrayed Dracula. Sala's statement quickly puts Sypha on edge. The leader of the monks reveals that he knows that Dracula is dead. much to the surprise of Sypha and the young Belmont, and that he wants to know who's responsible in order to punish them. Yeah, in other words, Sypha and Trevor are not in a very good spot. Before things can escalate, the judge asks Sala to move along. After all the commotion, a merchant approaches Trevor. He wants to buy the creature's teeth, which the young Belmont quickly accepts, with the caveat that he has to rip them out himself. And while Trevor and Sypha are talking, you can see in the background the dude struggling to rip the teeth out of this undead creature. It's one of those moments that kind of reminds me of Avatar: The Last Airbender, where it has like a super serious thing going on in the foreground, and in the background is something ridiculous and funny. Afterward, he spots a bar and asks for a beer, which the barkeeper gives for free for killing the creature. But before Trevor can fully enjoy his pint, he exhales that beer is better than sex, consequently landing him in trouble with Sypha, as Sypha then turns his beer into a block of ice, and she storms off mad. Pretty much confirming that the two are having sex. Yeah, wrap your head around that. So, that is pretty much the episode. It's a lot of setup, it is very slow. There's not really any action outside of one where Trevor and Sypha defeat some night creatures, but that's pretty much it. So, it's a slow episode, which I've gotten used to this show starting slow in every season. You know, you gotta set things up, but it does take a little bit too long. Just a little bit. But I have a feeling it's going to fix its problems very quickly, so I'm not going to hold it against it. Final thoughts for the episode? A slow start, but it sets up well. Final verdict? 6 out of 10. And I do really like meeting Carmilla's sisters. They're cool new characters that I am looking forward to seeing how much of an impact they leave throughout the season. Alright, now for episode 2, The Reparations of My Heart. Moving on from episode 1, which was very much focused on Carmilla, this time we have an episode that focuses on Isaac, and we see what he's been up to after his little cliffhanger from the end of Season 2. So, let's talk about it, shall we? And why it's called Reparation of My Heart, once again, it's taken from a line of dialogue from the actual show. In this case, it's a line from Isaac. But that doesn't mean it's just Isaac. A few other things are going on, but this is a very Isaac-focused episode, which I think makes it really good. So, let's talk about it. Synopsis. Isaac gets some unexpected help in his search for Hector. Meanwhile, Carmilla plots a land grab and Alucard meets some fans. Plot. Starting in Tunis. Yes, that is the name of the city. Make your jokes now. People are screaming, running away from a horde of night creatures led by Isaac. Dracula's former general enters a shop owned by an old blind man. He's seeking a large Carpathian transmission mirror. However, the shop owner doesn't have it anymore. He sold it to a couple from Kolkata. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Nevertheless, he does have something else that picked up Isaac's interest, a distance mirror. It reveals the holder's wish, in which Isaac's case is Hector's location, Carmilla's castle, which he immediately realizes is in Styria. Just about Isaac is about to leave the city by boat, the local authorities trap him and demand that he leaves, and although Isaac tries to leave peacefully, the local men leave him no choice but to unleash his wrath. In other words, he's slowly realizing that he just can't reason with people. The screams of the dead can be heard all through the city. Isaac arrives at the dock and asks the captain to take him and his creatures to Genoa, which the captain does after a little bit of convincing, and the word of Isaac that the night creatures won't eat his crew. Then we move on to Carmilla's castle. Carmilla shares her plans for the future with her sisters. She lays down a map of Eastern Europe. That part of the region has been fractured and devastated by Dracula's actions. If they march from their home to Brela, there will be nothing, no real power structures or organizations standing in their way, consequently enclosing that area with all the humans in it, making it their personal pen for livestock. And with Hector's skills, they will have enough night creatures to get and keep control of that region. However, Morana brings up an important matter. Hector wouldn't forge the creatures for Carmilla after beating the shit out of him. Rightfully so. And Striga points out that night creatures are loyal to their forge masters, which would give Hector an opportunity to build his own army against them. As such, Lenore volunteers to convince Hector to do their bidding. And you're gonna find out real quick that Lenore is one scary bitch. Probably even scarier than Carmilla. And yes, I don't mean that as hyperbole. Moving on to Lindenfeld now. The following morning, Sypha and Trevor are in bed together, having just finished sex. They don't dance around it, so I'm not gonna dance around it either. Trevor takes a walk around town where he meets Saint Germain. The former immediately recognizes Trevor as a member of Belmont, because he sees the emblem on the back of his tunic. Also, I forgot to point this out in episode 1, Trevor does have a new tunic now, darker colors, and I think it looks pretty cool. And the monks of the Priory have also taken an interest in the last remaining Belmont. Saint Germain wants to join the monks, however their leader Sala doesn't believe Saint Germain's intentions are pure. But when Saint Germain reveals his scribal skills and knowledge of Dracula, which are in a language that Sala doesn't understand, the leader of the monks grants Saint Germain, yes, it is pronounced that way, I know it says Saint Germain, but it's pronounced Saint Germain, limited access to the Priory. And then the episode finishes off in the Belmont Hold. Belmont Hold, Dracula's castle, it's kind of just a mix between the two. Alucard's home. While collecting water from a nearby ravine, Alucard senses the presence of two people, Taka and Sumi, vampire hunters. However, they are not here to hunt Dracula's son, but to talk to him and ask for help. The hunting partners were Cho's former slaves in her court in Japan. The duo wants Alucard to teach them to fight the vampires and free the people. And after some convincing, Alucard accepts, pretty much becoming a mentor of sorts, which I did not think was where they were going to take Alucard, but I kind of like this new direction. So, that's the episode. It is very Isaac-focused, but we do have other stuff that's going on as well with Carmilla, and of course what's unfolding in Lindenfeld with Saint Germain, Trevor, Sypha, and the Priory. So, it's great build-up. It's doing a really good job at setting things up, but it is another pretty setup-heavy episode. Though we do get some nice blood and carnage when Isaac unleashes his reanimated night creatures on the people that tried to stop him from leaving. And even scarier, he doesn't reanimate those ones. He just tells the night creatures to eat. Yeah, this show is not holding back, and I kind of love it. So, final thoughts for Reparation of My Heart? It's a pretty good Isaac-focused episode, and it's pretty interesting to see Alucard become a mentor. Final verdict? 7 out of 10. It's better than the first episode, but still not quite great. But I'm sure we'll reach that point eventually. Let's move on to episode 3, Investigators. Alright, so we move on from a Carmilla-focused episode to an Isaac-focused episode, and now we have an episode focused on Trevor, Sypha, and whatever's happening in Lindenfeld. So, let's not waste any time and just dive into it together, shall we? So, synopsis. Belmont and Sypha's plan to leave Lindenfeld hits a snag. Isaac and the captain debate the merits of humanity, and Hector tries to get a read on Lenore. Alright, let's start in Lindenfeld, because that's where the majority of this episode takes place, and a lot of things are starting to build. So, in Lindenfeld, Trevor and Sypha are sitting on a bench contemplating their next move. Sypha suggests hunting more night creatures, which brings a smile to Trevor's face. Even so, they have a nagging suspicion that some of the townsfolk worship Dracula, which the judge then confirms. He asks them to accompany him for tea. Back at his house, the judge asks them who they really are, and Sypha introduces her and Trevor and reveals that they killed Dracula. Upon hearing their identities and accomplishments, the judge asks them to find out what's going on in the Priory. In a flashback, the judge reveals a pack of night creatures attacked Lindenfeld. Luckily, the town's men-at-arms dispatched the demons. However, the pack leader managed to escape into the Priory. Instead of hearing blood and guts, they were met with a deadly silence. The creature wasn't killing them, it was talking to them. A blinding green light was emanating from the church, with lightning bolts hitting the ground around it. A while later, the monks came out with blackened pieces of the creature. They looked broken. The next day, the people of the town wanted to give thanks for God's mercy. However, Sala wouldn't allow them into the Priory's hall. A few days later, the first stranger, a priest covered in blood, arrived looking for the monastery. Every day since a new stranger arrived in town, the monks took them in. And it's just been going like that, on and on and on. The judge wants to know why the Priory is attracting damaged, frightened people. Sypha and Trevor agree to find out. And not to mention the judge also agrees to pay their rent while they stay. So, sounds like a pretty sweet deal, so I can't blame Trevor for not turning it down. Then we go to the Mediterranean Sea. Isaac and the captain are debating the merits of humanity. Isaac reveals that he is a Sufi, the self-flagellating kind. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because it brings him clarity, but he's too angry to continue the practice. The captain is intrigued by Isaac and asks him to tell his story, which Isaac obliges. Isaac tells what happened in Wallachia and how Dracula threw him through a magic mirror to save his life. Isaac goes on to reveal his skills as a forge master and other abilities. After he kills Hector, he plans to take out Dracula's cause and kill all the people in the world. Upon hearing Isaac's plan, the captain disperses a little bit of wisdom to the Sufi. Why would Isaac live out Dracula's story when he can tell his own? But also the captain points out that by eliminating humanity, he would also destroy what makes it beautiful. Isaac could use his skills to teach people how to be kind. I really like the captain. He's a cool character. I'm sure we're probably not going to see him by this point, but I hope he comes back in some way. He's a really cool character, and I do like him. But then, the episode finishes off in Carmilla's castle, where Lenore visits Hector and brings him a basket filled with actual food. The battered Hector is wary of Lenore's intentions. Even so, he can't deny his empty stomach and quickly fetches the single blackberry that Lenore throws like a starving and obedient pet. She stands to give him a piece of chicken, but Hector sees an opportunity and quickly yanks her to the cell bars, leaving Lenore in a position that he can easily rip her throat out if she doesn't call the guards to free him. But before he can finish his threat, however, Lenore transforms into countless little bats and attacks Hector, beating him to a measly pulp. Once again, Lenore explains that she only wants peace, but people, especially Hector, shouldn't mistake her kindness for weakness. Yeah, Lenore is not to be fucked with. She's terrifying because she's so polite on the outside, but on the inside, she's somehow even more scary than Carmilla. I don't know how or why that even became a thing, but she is scary. I would not be surprised if she's, overthrowing Carmilla secretly or something. Either way, she's scary. It is really hard to actually put it into words because you actually have to see it for yourself, but she is scary. Not to mention, she throws that one cliche of the one simple, kinded person out the window. Because she may have more peace and calmness than Carmilla, but she will not hesitate to murder someone if need be. And she is loyal to a fault to her sisters. So, yeah, it is pretty freaking scary. And shout out to Jessica Brown Finley for the amazing voice acting. And yes, before you ask, Lenore is named Lenore because of a reference to Edgar Allan Poe's famous story, The Crow. Well, The Raven, sorry, not The Crow, excuse me. But yeah, that's a reference to Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. So, final thoughts for the episode. There's more great setups, a few laughs, and damn, Lenore is scary as hell. And because of all that, it all adds up to an episode that once again continues to build off of the previous two episodes and be even more enjoyable. And because of that, final verdict is an 8 out of 10. Great episode, check it out. Okay, only one more episode to go, and then we'll be back to live action for the next review. So, let's move on to episode 4, I Have a Scheme. Alrighty, here we are, the final episode of this review. We're nowhere close to the end of the season, there's still a long way to go. Because this season is even longer than season 2. So, we're only just getting started, even though this is the final review of this batch. So, let's finish off this one big 4-pack review with a bang. Because we are finishing off with another great episode. So, let's talk about it. Synopsis. Sumi and Taka share their history with Alucard, also Saint-Germain gains access to the Priory, and Isaac receives an icy welcome in Genoa. Plot. Starting in Dracula's castle. Taka and Sumi are looking at Alucard's puppets, which are based off of Trevor and Sypha. prompting Taka to ask how long Alucard has been alone in the castle. However, he's unaware of how much time has passed since he last saw his friends. Sumi starts to tell her and Taka's lives at Cho's secret fortress in northern Japan. Even though countless vampire hunters came to take Cho's head, they were no match for the ruthless vampire. Not only that, but her human slaves had to watch how each hunter fell to their knees in defeat, and how slow and methodical and absolutely brutal their deaths are. However, little did Cho know that Taka and Sumi were watching her, studying how she lived, how she fought, and learning from her every victory, memorizing her every single weakness. Their lives became nothing but the development of plans to end their master, but when Cho left to join Dracula's war court, Sumi and Taka escaped the compound. They killed all of Cho's guards and freed the prisoners, but knowing that Cho would return, Sumi and Taka left the country to hunt their former master. But even though she's already dead, another vampire will take her place, and their freedom will mean nothing. As such, they need Alucard to help them fight the creatures of the night. Interesting. And once again, it is pretty cool to see Alucard as a mentor. Then we move on to Carmilla's castle. Striga and Morana are a bit weary of Carmilla's plans. The lovers, yes, these two are a couple, and the first LGBTQ couple of the show, which I'm always a fan of the representation in animation if it's done right. You know, Hell of a Boss, Has Been Hotel, this, stuff like this. But if it's just forced in there and doesn't make sense, then I'm going to call it out as garbage. But this is a really good one, even though we don't get much time with it in this episode. The lovers reminisce about how they came together, including the bad times. Striga believes it would be hard to execute Carmilla's plans. If the plan succeeded, they would be in control of an entire empire ruled by 4 women. Lenore once again visits Hector. She gives him one shiny red apple if he answers her question. But before Lenore can ask, Hector cuts her off and reveals that he knows why Carmilla is keeping him alive. Now that she confirmed Hector's suspicions, she asks her question. What would Hector like? Which she answers, shoes. Hector has another question. What was Dracula going to give him? Hector's reward for helping Dracula was his freedom, to be spared from the slaughter. His answer made Lenore wonder if Hector expected a prize to be presented to him for his deeds. It's a very interesting conversation, and not only that, Lenore is not as scary as she was in the previous episode, because now Hector is aware that he cannot try to break out while she is in front of him, because she will kick his ass if need be. But it's a cool little conversation between the two, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's blooming into another relationship, because this show is starting to become full of them. Because you have Trevor and Sypha, you have Striga and Morana, and now you could possibly have Hector and Lenore. I don't know if this is tying into Curse of Darkness, but it might be. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, these are all first-time watches, so I don't know where the hell it's going to go. As my mouse has a spasm. Okay, let's go back to Lindenfeld. Saint-Germain gains entrance to the monastery, however the monks don't trust him. Even though Saint-Germain has access to the priory, he can't stop sucking up to the monk, which the latter finds to be patronizing. While inside, Saint-Germain notices the feces, blood, and bugs crawling around. It's a pretty run-down, disgusting heap of a church. Before he can start looking through the piles of books, Sala returns and spouts how the night creatures actually bring light. The prior's words scare Saint-Germain, and he questions the monk's loyalty to God. Even so, he's fascinated with Sala, even wondering how the preacher came to the symbol on his armband. It seems those who bore witness to the visitor, night creature, that appeared in episode 3, wear it because it gave it to them its mark. That's the way it's described here. I apologize, I can't describe it any better. However, Saint-Germain reveals that the symbol is the alchemical sign for sulfur, used by philosophers to denote hell. This tidbit makes Sala's eyes glare with joy. After Sala leaves, Saint-Germain picks up a book that captures his interest. While he's reading inside, Trevor and Sypha sneak around the priory before a monk spots them and asks them to leave. Sypha tries to defuse the situation, however, their short discussion revealed quite a bit of information about the monks and their monastery, even though the monks themselves didn't realize it. Then the episode finishes off in Genoa. Isaac and his night creatures arrive, however it's an icy welcome as a group of men at arms approach him. Isaac tells them that they have nothing to fear from him, they're just leaving, but the sergeant will not allow them into Genoa, having overheard what's going on in Wallachia. Isaac tries to talk with the man peacefully, but once again he experiences the rudeness of humans, as such, leaving Isaac no choice but his night creatures to attack. And this one, he reanimates. He reanimates these soldiers into his army. But he gives an amazing, badass speech right before he does it. Let me see if I can find it. Right here. Why do I keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result? Isn't that the definition of insanity? Am I mad? You know, one day the last one of you will ask me, why did you work with Dracula himself to murder all the people? And you know what I'll say? It's because you're all so fucking rude. Badass line delivery right there. Amazing job by his voice actor, Adetukumbo McCormick. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your first name. I can't pronounce anything for shit, so I'm just trying my best here. So, final thoughts on the episode. The conversations with Hector and Lenore are great. Isaac is becoming more threatening by the minute. The tension's starting to ramp up, and the first LGBTQ couple appearance in the series. No doubt things are about to get wild soon, and because of that, the final verdict for this episode is a 9 out of 10. Fantastic episode. I'm excited to see where it's going to go for the remainder of the season. Okay, and since I don't have to do a whole season overall thing like in the last one because we're just getting started, that's going to be the end of this video. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this almost every single day. Stay tuned because, like I said, we are back to live action for the next 2 episodes, and then we will be all caught up for tomorrow. So, that's it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you're having an amazing spooky season. Really hope you're checking this show out for yourself because it is fucking great. And I will see you in the next review.